One example is the story of Jim and Jessica and their son Brad. Jim was an Iraqi veteran who had 2 deployments, and in his last deployment he was manning a checkpoint when an Iraqi civilian had been running up to that checkpoint in a state of just confusion and chaos. And they tried to warn him to stop, but he didn't, and they opened fire, and Jim essentially killed the civilian, only to discover that he had been running to the checkpoint to find help because his son had been hurt, and he was trying to get help from the military to help his son. So of course Jim came back haunted by the memories of this, as well as other things that had happened. And he went on to develop some of the telltale symptoms of PTSD. He was having some nightmares, he was having difficulty focusing and concentrating, he was having memories of the events. But he didn't really seek help initially because he was just struggling to try to reintegrate and readjust into civilian life. And he needed to find a new job to support his family. And he came back to his wife and his son, and went on to have a daughter as well. But over time, even after finding a job, these symptoms got worse, and he started to drink, and that led to increased fighting and conflict at home, ultimately leading to a point where his wife had told him that he better leave, or that he better get help, or that she would potentially have to leave. And so he started a process of engaging with the VA that started to help him cope. But at the same time, it wasn't helping enough, because with everything that was going on for him, he would bring a lot of it home, and it was still affecting his wife, and it was still affecting his son, Brad. So when our center opened up, the VA provider, Jennifer, that had been seeing this individual, that had been seeing Jim, shared that, maybe you can bring your family together to this center, and then we can work together. And so we did just that, and we saw his wife and his son Brad, and it quickly became clear that Jim was also becoming upset with his son Brad because he was seeing all kinds of trouble behavior at school and with friends, and Brad wasn't doing as well in school as he had been doing in the past. But our clinicians started to work with Brad and noticed pretty quickly that Brad was feeling very sad and feeling depressed. And we were able to have a session together where Brad and his dad were talking a little bit about what happened, and Brad had shared that he thought his dad was angry with him and upset with him when he was getting into fights with his mom. And Brad and Jim was able to explain that, no, when I get this way, when I get upset like this, it's not because of anything that you've done, it's because of something that's going on for me with my service history and with what I'm dealing with. And that really helped Brad to understand more about what was happening, and to feel less responsible, less guilty, and then ultimately less depressed. And by the end of the treatment, thankfully, Brad was feeling a lot happier and saying that he was happy now to go to school. And Jennifer was, Jim's wife was feeling that she could cope better, that she understood more of what was happening and how to respond. And Jim felt like he was much more connected to his family and to his son.